the bases dropped on a new edition of Soccer Down here. It's a Monday. We got a weekend to recap for you. Lots of different things to jump into from all over the world. We've got champions in Central America. We had a U.S. men's national team friendly that we'll talk about with Bart Keeler coming up at 9:30. We've got the Premier League with games being canceled, with games not being canceled, with referees maybe who should be canceled. We'll get into all of that as we go. Let's start with where things stand in England right now. John, was it 6 games that were canceled over the weekend in the Premier League? It's not even getting into the lower divisions where there were lots of games. There were more games canceled in England than anywhere else in the world by far. The Premier League's supposed to be meeting today about what their next steps are going to be. And what has been leaked is not a true circuit breaker of let's stop playing while this is spreading. It's let's stop the middle round of games during the festive fixtures and play the others. Okay? Is there any logic behind this in your mind?
None whatsoever.
Just none. Like no logic. None.
I mean, unless you're
well then why are they doing it? Tell me why they're doing that then, because I mean there's a reason.
Yeah, I think what they're trying to do is, with that middle grouping of games, I think what it is you play the first group of festive fixtures, you reassess, you figure out where you are, you try to get some kind of solid footing, and then you prepare for that third round. So
I don't. Maybe. I mean, that would. I hope that's not their thinking. If it is, man, they got issues because it's 2 days away.
Yeah.
Like, what's going to change in 2 days? You're not even out of a quarantine period. What they're doing, it's really clear what they're doing. They're trying to get as many games in as possible. They don't want to have these games rescheduled. They don't want to have to deal with the schedule issues. And they think that this is the way to deal with what people like Thomas Tuchel are saying, where, hey, you guys are talking about player safety and you're not actually doing anything about player safety. What they're going to come back and say is, well, rosters are depleted right now, so we're not going to make teams do something that we shouldn't make them do anyway, which is play 3 games in like 6 days.
Yeah.
We're going to take the middle games out. That's what they're trying to do. It's still asinine, by the way. It's still stupid. Like, it's just there is actually some thought behind what they're trying to do. But I mean, Jarrett, you got 6 games canceled this round. You're going to get more games canceled in the next round. You got League Cup games coming up. You've got the games on Boxing Day, which is what they don't want to lose. It feels like they're trying to bet on getting the Boxing Day games in at least, and then crossing their fingers and sticking their heads in the sand.
It kind of does. And maybe it's, I know people, as much as they love their festive fixtures, maybe it's a bit of a blessing in disguise for some players to not have to play 3 games in a week.
Oh, what is that?
That would always be part of it, but it does kind of feel like that. Where you're encountering what I feel like might be something similar in the NBA right now. That you had a lot of games canceled yesterday. And I wonder if it's a similar vein of, Boxing Day is a huge thing for the EPL. Christmas Day is a huge thing for the NBA.
Preserve your Christmas Day games for the NBA.
Preserve your biggest, what is probably going to be one of your biggest television days of the year, and where you're going to do a lot of ticket sales, a lot of marketing. Preserve that. And then it's just a matter of, do the leagues look at it and say, okay, let's just get to that. And then while we're waiting for that, let's readdress how we're going to deal with this after Christmas. Because theoretically, you could use this time to say, we need to address how we're going to deal with all of these things going forward. Do we change our protocols? Do we change the way we're testing? Do we change the way we're treating, putting people in protocols? Do we do that? Use your time for that. Because if you just hold everything off until Christmas or till Boxing Day and then keep doing the same thing, you're going to be in the same situation in, I don't know, a couple days, couple weeks at the most. Nothing's going to change. You're just strategically positioning things to get your big marketing day in.
I don't think anything changes for that. I'm not buying it maybe that is their plan. I don't know. I'm not buying it works. Let me put it that way. Because the Premier League talking about it, and look, this was something that was floated out there. Maybe it was a little bit of a test balloon. We'll see with this summit meeting that they're having today. The idea that you don't do anything in terms of canceling rounds of games until the round after Boxing Day. I mean, just following logic, you had 6 games canceled here that had nothing to do with anything. How many games are you going to have canceled on Boxing Day? Because canceling the round after Boxing Day does nothing to get the Boxing Day games in. 0. It doesn't affect it. So, I mean, I understand in 4-card, it must go on. It's tradition. I totally get that. But proposing canceling the round after Boxing Day does nothing to get the Boxing Day games in. Canceling games now in the NBA, maybe they feel like that will break the spread. But you're also then going to have to go further than that in terms of what these leagues are doing. And you're going to have teams go into bubble situations or lockdown scenarios and all that. Because you can cancel it all you want. The spread's happening in training sessions. The spread's happening, as Thomas Tuchel said, in travel. The spread's happening in things that are not related to these games. That's what I keep just banging my head against the wall with some of these leagues, and they haven't learned anything about how to handle this stuff. I mean, Thomas Tuchel, Chelsea asked for their game to be postponed. It was denied, and Tuchel was very clear. He said it's not safe. We talk about protecting players in a safe environment, but it's not safe. I would not be surprised, or I would be not surprised if the next test shows up and we have more positives. How should it stop if we sit in the bus and have dinners and just stay together like nothing happened? Because they had a number of positives. They requested a postponement. The Premier League postponed other games. They didn't postpone this one. Yeah, it does also affect where they had the positives. They didn't have really any attackers. They had 4 players on the bench, 4 outfield players on the bench. It affected the result. I mean, they didn't look good. They didn't have any options off the bench. They didn't have much of an attack. They draw 0-0 with Wolves. This stuff's affecting the league now. It's affecting the competition. But what I'm waiting to see, and this honestly didn't get as much play as I thought it would over the weekend, the NFL made a very significant change to what they're doing. They basically made a large separation between unvaccinated and vaccinated players in terms of what you have to do. Testing procedures, the unvaccinated players have to test every day in the NFL still. The vaccinated players don't. The vaccinated players only start to test when they have symptoms. That is a massive change to the way that the NFL is operating going forward. I am very curious to see if the NBA here in this country and if other leagues start to adopt that. Because we've heard the coaches say different things about, I had these, Jim Curtin. I mean, Jim Curtin said it, I had guys who were healthy with the sniffles at home and couldn't play in the Eastern Conference Final. Yeah, because of the protocols right now, they couldn't. Should that change? I don't know. I don't have the answers to this. And there's debates about this at the scientist level and at the doctor level of, should you allow that at this point? A lot of jobs do. I mean, to be frank, a lot of jobs, you're not testing every day to go to work. And unless you're having symptoms and feeling sick, you're going into work. And you might have tested positive if you tested. I don't know if it's the right way or not. I'm kind of blown away that we still don't know if it's the right way or not this far into this, and we don't have better answers. But, I mean, John, I go back to my biggest issue with the way the Premier League is handling this, and I'm just so irate about their lack of any kind of plan. You've got games getting canceled. You've got games not getting canceled. You've got games getting canceled a day before. You've got games getting canceled hours before. You got teams traveling and then games getting canceled. Like, there's no plan, and it doesn't sound like they're really about to come up with much of a plan to deal with the immediate aspect of it. Their plan is to try to handle the PR side of it, and their plan is to try to, get the Boxing Day games in, it sounds like.
So, taking the schedule here into account, here's what it looks like. So you have 18 of the 20 teams playing on Boxing Day. You have 9 matches on the 26th. Teams 19 and 20 play on the 27th. So that's that round.
Yeah, first off, hold on. Before you continue, I'm sorry. I have to say it again. I say it every year we get to this. The festive fixture schedule in the Premier League is stupid. Mm-hmm. Beyond stupid.
Yeah.
The Premier League should never say anything about player safety and overworking players and not having them play too many games because of that schedule. It's absurd, and there's no good reason to do it. There's no good reason to do it. You could put that game later in the year where it's better weather and still have a huge crowd, and I don't think people are paying a premium for a game that day. Like, come on. Stop. There's no good reason for doing it. It's a waste. It's not safe. You get a ton of injuries. It's not worth it. So I hope that maybe they'll realize that and not do it every year, but it doesn't sound like it. It sounds like they're trying to protect it. It's a horrible schedule.
And to your point, 12 teams play on the 28th.
Yeah.
You've got 18 teams playing on the 26th. The other two playing on the 27th. 12 teams play on the 28th. 4 play on the 29th. 4 more play on the 30th. And then you've got Arsenal and Manchester City starting the third round on New Year's Day. So literally you get a day off from the 26th. And 12 teams are back at it on the 28th. And then the rounds go 4 and 4 on the 29th and 30th.
And the Gummy Bear Cup on top of that. That is also a part of this.
And frankly, and I know that we'll, might get into this a little later, but the fact that Tottenham has been given a forfeit against Rennes in the Conference League, I'd be like, okay, fine.
That's what they were. That's, of course, I'm not surprised if Tottenham didn't. Antonio Conte started looking again at the rules, and he's like, hey, UEFA, hey, guys, we're not going to be able to play this game. Forfeit us. Or what? Why? It's a Europa Conference thing. Hey, come on. No, you need to forfeit us. We're really bad people. Forfeit us. Forfeit us. We're bad. We shouldn't be allowed
English
to play.
coach who knows what the tournament is. That's progress.
Well, he's Italian, but yeah, that's why he knows it.
Well, coach in the English league. He's also Northern Irish.
He gets it there. He also, if he is lobbying for this, which I would be, Tottenham has now become the first English club to be knocked out of each of the Europa Conference League, the old glorious Intertoto Cup, the Europa League, the UEFA Cup, the Cup Winners' Cup, the Champions League, and the old European Cup. Every UEFA competition they've ever had, Tottenham's been knocked out of it. Good job, Spurs.
Lucky 7. Yeah. But, hey, I'm Conte realized the schedule, and he realized what's going on with the state of affairs, and I'm like, nah.
Allegedly. Somebody did it, Tottenham, because they're not playing that game. There's no way they're going to play it. But now, remember, go back to last week where they were going to play that game on a day they wanted to, or at least UEFA wanted them to, but Tottenham had a league match on the Thursday, if I remember right, maybe the Wednesday. They were going to play the game against Rennes the day before, but they couldn't rearrange the league game. But then the league game got canceled after Tottenham had traveled the day before. So if the league game had been canceled, 24 hours, 48 hours ahead of time or whatever, then Tottenham might have been able to play the game against Rennes and rescheduled it, but they didn't, and this is where you get, and everybody is just, it's so stupid. Okay, speaking of stupid, I guess we have to talk about the refereeing from the Liverpool-Tottenham match, since we're there. Jurgen Klopp wasn't a fan. Tottenham wasn't a fan at different points either. It was bad all the way around. Harry Kane should have been sent off. I'm sorry, the explanation for why he wasn't, why the player jumped in the air. It does nothing to do with the player jumping in the air. Harry Kane's going in with extreme force, straight legs, studs up. That's a red card. And Harry Kane's getting a reputation for starting to do this kind of stuff on a regular basis. The whole argument that I keep hearing about it, and I've talked about Harry Kane for years. I am not trying to pile on Harry Kane. I've felt like he's one of the best strikers in the world and has been underrated worldwide. Complete player, incredible player. He's starting to take some liberties with some of this stuff, and it's not just on undercutting people. He's done that too. There's plenty of footage out there. It's stuff like this. And the idea that you can keep saying, well, he's not that kind of a player, I'm not buying that anymore. This was a horrendous challenge. He should have been sent off. Robertson's tackle later was more borderline. I can buy the red card there. Okay, whatever. I'm not going to get too worked up about it. But if the other one was not a red, then this one's not a red. Both of them should have been reds, I think. And the second one, the Robertson one, is a little more questionable. You had the penalty situation. I mean, you had a bunch of different things. You had earlier in the day the Newcastle shout for a penalty against Manchester City. Alan Shearer described it as disgusting that it wasn't given. VAR, I don't know if they're watching. I don't know if they're watching The Simpsons. I don't know if they're watching Hee Haw. I have no idea. They're not paying attention to the game because they're not supporting the referees and helping them, or then they're just all in complete, wrong side of understanding what should be a red. I mean, Jarrett, we've talked about Harry Kane with these situations before. That one felt like a very easy red card when you see it in real time. You don't have to slow it down. You don't have to do a bunch of tricks to see the red there. It's about as red as it gets with a challenge.
It is, and it's. I think that was what got me was you have this situation where that's not a red, but if you set that standard and tell me that's not a red, then you can't send off Andy Robertson.
Yeah.
You cannot.
Right.
That's both, and the rest of Liverpool have every reason to be upset with the officiating that day. Because it's a 1-1 game, and granted, I think John mentioned, the first 30 minutes of that game, Tottenham probably should have put the game away.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, it ends 1-1. Liverpool's playing down a man at the end. It's probably a red by the book. You've already set the line of confrontation in this game at unreasonably high, and that didn't even come close to the one you let slide, and it's embarrassing. And it's embarrassing for player safety, and it's the last person I'm going to feel sorry for here is Harry Kane. But Hey, Harry Kane, man, I hope you enjoy all the publicity and the replays of that one, because guess what's going to get replayed a lot when we talk about this? It's the one that wasn't called that you committed. Great job, everybody. We talk about referees in this country playing. We can talk about them all over the world, because my God, that's there's a difference. There are different levels of getting calls wrong. That is a level of getting calls wrong where you're putting player safety in serious jeopardy, and that's very much not okay. I feel like that shouldn't have to be said, but Jesus, I feel like we have to.
It felt like an easy one. I mean, that's where I'm maybe the most shocked by it is you see this should be an easy procedure. You see that tackle live, and you're like, ooh. All right, maybe you want another look at it if you're the referee. It's a huge decision. Big red card decision at that point in the match. I get it. You don't want to show the red straight away. Okay. That's why you have a video assistant referee. That's why they're there. That's why they can send it down to you. That's why they can give you the second look. But you have to see that and be like, ooh, that's not a good challenge. And then you get it confirmed, and then it's a red. Like, it's easy. Like, I'm fine with the way the game gets managed adapting to the new VAR world. I'm fine with him not running over and showing the red immediately. If he wants to be sure, I'm fine with that. But that's where the video assistant referee has to do their job. And just literally replay the thing again. You don't have to do any fancy tricks. You don't need any slowdowns to see where the foul happened. How did it happen this way? You just show the thing again. Show another angle if you want. It should be about a 60-second decision involving the VAR. You take the look. The referee says, "Hey, I need to know on that one. Give me more info on that one." Okay, you want to go look at it? Cool, but the VAR should look at it and say, "It's a straight red." Do you need to look? And the referee should, and I'd have to go back and look to see where he was, to see how far away. If he's far away, yeah, I want to go look. Go look at it. Should be an easy decision. If you're close enough and you just weren't sure or you just wanted that confirmation to show the red, then get it from the VAR and show the red. It's got to be a red. And Jarrett, you're dead on. Like, if you don't show red there, then you bring the question up with the other challenge that was a red for Robertson. If you're not going to show red the first time, you can't really show red the second. If you show red the first time, I'm fine with the second being a red. But it was so inconsistent. There were so many calls wrong. And now Newcastle's reportedly going to issue a formal complaint about various referee decisions. It's bad. And it's not bad everywhere, but it's bad in England. It's very bad in England, and it's got to get better here too. We talked about it a lot this season. I actually saw a very good, quick usage of video assistant refereeing in Colombia last night, and it was good to see. They didn't just go by the letter of the law. There was contact to the face, but it was a really awkward situation with a player who had slipped and was starting to get up, and he's kind of stumbling into a player who is turning and doesn't know the player's there because he had slipped, and did catch him with an elbow. He didn't throw the elbow, but he's turning. His arm is turning with his body. And he caught him. The player tried to make a meal of it, and they said, no, it's a yellow. Got it dead on, and it didn't take forever. So there's hope. There is hope in the world that this can get better. But, John, your beloved Prim, oh, boy. Oh, boy.
Yeah, no. And Alex, I will have to steadfastly disagree with you. I did not think that the Ederson call with Ryan Frazier was a penalty.
Why is it not a penalty?
I thought that Frazier saw Ederson down and was already starting to fall, and he falls over Ederson. I didn't think that was a penalty. I thought that Frazier was trying to get a call more than anything else.
I'm not buying that. Ederson's out of control with his challenge and takes him out. What's Frazier supposed to do? Get his leg broken?
No.
Well, that's exactly what you're saying.
What I'm saying,
he's supposed to take the hit.
Then hop over him.
Isn't that what he was?
No, he's literally he was falling.
Okay, but no, hold on. We always have this conversation about attackers and penalties. No, I don't want him to. If he can draw a penalty, draw a penalty.
Exactly.
But then okay, John. You're absolving the goalkeeper from committing a reckless challenge because the player tried to make sure he got hit. He didn't make the goalkeeper come out recklessly on him.
No.
And I think he is, like, I don't know. I don't know if he could get out of the way. How's he supposed to get out of the way? Is he supposed to be able to jump, 3 feet in the air that quickly and avoid the goalkeeper who's out of control? I think it should have been a penalty. Ederson made the decision to make that challenge. It's just like this, and this is why I don't like that argument. And a lot of people make that argument. This is why I don't like it. And we're going to get to Bart Keeler here in just a second. He'll continue with the referee conversation. The Harry Kane challenge. He goes in, studs up, straight leg. That should be a red card no matter what, if he makes contact or not. So the goalkeeper comes out recklessly, and you're putting it on the attacking player to get out of the way for a decision that he didn't make because he shouldn't try to get the penalty that is being handed to him by the goalkeeper coming out recklessly. Like, that's what I thoroughly disagree with.
Well, and I'm looking at it, and I watched the match, and the angle that I specifically locked this in for me was the one from behind the net, where Ederson is down, and he's already made his commitment to the ball to try to make the save. Frazier, there's a couple, and I know that I'm probably looking at this in not real time, and that probably is influencing my thought pattern here. But Ederson is down, and he's working his way over to make the save, and he's already committed to his act. I see Ryan Frazier still with some opportunity to avoid Ederson as he is making contact with the ball, and then he ends up coming over the top.
So it's his obligation to avoid it?
It's not. No, it's his obligation. I mean, if you're Ryan Frazier, you're trying to draw a call. I just still thought that there was room for Ryan Frazier to avoid contact.
but it's his obligation to avoid the contact because of the challenge. I disagree with that idea. I think it's more of the defender put himself in that position, and he's got to deal with the consequences. Bart, you're a referee. Tell us where we're wrong.
Well, that exact same challenge that Harry Kane made was a red card in the USA-Bosnia friendly, and that was a friendly, and the referee had no problem showing a red card immediately.
That's true.
And I would personally just not allow Harry Kane to play ever. I'd give him a red card every time. But I'm an Arsenal supporter, so
okay,
I'm a Tottenham fan.
Well, let's take the referee shirt off there for a second on that one. So, yeah, no, he's getting a reputation for this kind of stuff. At least he should be.
I think that's what does it for me, right? Like having refereed a number of players who, you see them once or twice, you know, and to just kind of give them a pass was a bit weird.
So the other challenge, the potential penalty in the Newcastle game with Ederson, which is a trickier call for sure. It's to me the Harry Kane one is like textbook. This is the challenge we're trying to eliminate in the game. It's a red card. You don't need 50 angles. It's a red card. The Ederson one with the goalkeeper coming out, and I think it was Cancelo who took the ball away and came away with the ball and turns. Where do you stand on those sorts of things about trying to draw contact? John thinks it shouldn't be a penalty because he feels like the attacker was looking for the contact. I felt like the goalkeeper was reckless and creating the contact. It's a tougher call for sure.
Yeah, look, I think the way I look at a lot of these potential clashes in a box like that is who's doing their due diligence to still play the ball in a fair manner. And I think, and I'll say this as a member of the goalkeeper union, that we oftentimes aren't being very fair in our attempt to win the ball. I just think that in a case like that, it's hard to judge whether or not someone was actually trying to win the ball or they were trying to fall down easily, or if the goalkeeper was actually coming out just hard or if he was coming out recklessly. But I think in general, referees are hesitant to give a penalty for challenges when the keeper comes out for a challenge.
Yeah,
and
they are.
I think that's where I think that's really what it is. Is sometimes it's just we give goalkeepers a little too much leeway.
Yeah, you have it tough being in the goalkeepers union and the referee union. So do you fight yourself at times?
I'm actually the worst referee for goalkeepers to have because I'm like I guess I'm like super critical of their movement. So they'll do stuff. I call keepers out of the box all the time. They're like, they're 14. I'm like, he's still at like a full yard
out of the box.
Like, this is still illegal.
Oh, you're one of those guys. Okay.
I am. I give them a warning at least first. I'm
okay,
like, hey, coach, like, tell your keeper to stay inside the box. Because sometimes they just don't know. But
yeah.
At some point, you're like, all right, this is bad.
Fair enough. Okay. We could continue down refereeing down here, but we got a U.S. men's national team game to talk about. Refereeing was part of it, and you were right. The challenge in the first half was horrendous and had to be a red. And there's just no argument about it. And it was very funny to watch the arguments about it because, that's a nasty challenge anywhere in the world.
Yeah, it was it was unfortunate for the U.S. because I think that really threw a wrench into whatever the plan for the friendly was.
100%.
Not that we were executing that plan 100% before then, but that it was one of those challenges where in a friendly, obviously you're not trying to give a red card for a lot of reasons. That was one that you couldn't even allow to let go at that point in time. No. That was such a dangerous and foul. That was very hard and very late and very high. When I first saw it live, I was like, "Ooh, a red!" And I was like, "That was a little harsh." And then I saw the replay, and I saw where the referee looked at his angle, and I was like, "Oh, he saw that literally go into his calf." So yeah, that's a red card.
And I know that Greg Berhalter after the match was like, "Well, I think that the tenor of the match," and I'm paraphrasing, the tenor of the match changed after the red card, and so they bunker, and it's difficult for us to do what we wanted to do in this and looking at first-time players and all this kind of stuff. So legitimately after the red card and looking at it a couple of days later, how much can we take away from this because this match was changed, I think, so much because of that red.
Oh, I still think you can take a lot from it, in the sense that the two players who were given all 90 minutes to play in the midfield still, between the two of them, created zero chances. And I still think that is the most disappointing. I also think that this is a great time for self-reflection of USA fans, because I think we expected a lot from Greg Berhalter in this match, getting us exciting new players, showing us that maybe there is some more promising talent on the rise, and instead we got 90 minutes of Kellyn Acosta and Christian Roldan. So I think we need to take a step back and reflect inwardly on why we expect Greg Berhalter to do things that we want him to do.
Yeah, I mean, he talked about coming into this, and it's a weird one because it's not a normal FIFA date. You've got guys who are going into an off season. He talked about wanting to keep them sharp in some way, which was a little odd because they're still going to have time off. I don't know.
We're going to keep you sharp and then send you home for another month.
Yeah, there were things about it that were weird, and it's just kind of a weird game. But let's take those two who I know are not. Well, one of them I think is not a favorite, but not one of your guys that you always batter on. One of them is in Christian Roldan. Who would you have wanted to see instead of those two in this game? Who could have played in place of those two?
So I actually think Cole Bassett should have come on for one of the 8 positions. That's where he plays for Colorado. Yeah. I think we all wanted to see Caden Clark from New York Red Bulls. Taylor Booth was given a lot of praise at his training at that 8 position. And it's not so much that I wanted them to start and play. I mean, obviously I did, because I think we're all just hungry to see new, younger talent. That's kind of the way we always tend to err. But the fact that they got 90 minutes is, I think, where most U.S. fans are like, this was a waste. I mean, they could have come out in the 80th minute and said, hey, cool, thanks for giving us 80 minutes, I thought Jordan Morris, as much as I think he's a great U.S. men's national team player, giving him 70-some minutes was way too much, especially for a guy who's coming off an ACL injury. And I know he played for Seattle at the end of the season, but there's no way his match fitness is even up to 70 minutes after taking a few weeks off.
I'll give that one different just because it is an injury ramp up and it got kind of stalled out because of Seattle going out early. At least that one, you can have a conversation about the why. I think you can debate how much or where it should have fallen, but I at least get it, giving him a good sweat and all that. I'm with you on a costume.
You could just tell that he got to a point where it was like, okay, I think he's a little bit spent right now. So at that point, I would have said, all right, let's change it up. Not that 60, 70 minutes, fine, but I just think that, and this was the unfortunate part of it, is we had so much exciting young promise on the bench that really we didn't get a look at until the very end, and they produced a goal for us. So that was nice.
Yeah, I'm with you in this because at this stage who Kellyn Acosta and Christian Roldan are. And people can debate and not debate, and I know they've got an MLS tag next to their name, so for some that's just instantly the scarlet letter. But that if you need them in January, they're going to be what they are. They're consistent for the most part in that. You know what you're going to get. You need them on the road in CONCACAF. You know what you're going to get. You didn't learn anything here that you didn't already know. You could have had them play the secondary role. Start the kid to see what you can find out and have them come on and finish it up at the end if you want to do that.
Yeah, I think it was also starting both of them.
Right.
And playing both of them 90 minutes, right? If you had started Roldan next to Caden Clark or Cole Bassett, okay, cool. I get the point of that, right? Roldan is a guy who knows the system, because apparently that's the most important thing to Greg Berhalter, is that the system. And if you get called into every camp imaginable, you're going to know the system more. But he could have helped, in theory, facilitate for a younger player to kind of understand their positioning and the passes they need to make. You could see that with Walker Zimmerman talking to Brooks Lennon and Henry Kessler a lot in the back line.
Good point.
I am most upset that we played Kellyn Acosta 90 minutes in an 8 position, where I don't really think he's as effective, especially on the U.S. men's national team.
Agree.
And I think what bothered me the most with Acosta specifically is there were so many times that he did the things that we need eights to do and then failed at them. So he would take a ball forward very hesitantly. He was not very excited, it looked like, to have to dribble into space. And then he would try to release a ball to give a ball to, most of the time, it was Jordan Morris on his right side, and completely missed the pass. So it was things like that where it's like, we're not even executing the system that you need executed, you know, because you played a guy. Yes, he should understand that 8 position, but that's not where he's at his best.
Right.
And you played a guy out of position for so long just for match fitness. That seems like just such a short-sighted goal for Greg Berhalter.
100%.
When you had a chance to get guys who have real promise, bright futures ahead. Cole Bassett and Jonathan Gomez is already going to Europe. Cole Bassett could have left for Europe during the summer. You have guys like Taylor Booth already in Europe. Caden Clark is obviously going to Salzburg as well over the winter.
Leipzig,
sorry.
He
Possibly
maybe
Salzburg.
should go to Salzburg. Yeah, because he's not going to play at Leipzig.
But he's going to the big boy Red Bull club, right? Yeah. Wherever that he goes after that. So you have players who you're not going to get to see in January, right? Like you're not going to get to see Jonathan Gomez or Caden Clark or Taylor Booth in January. You might get to see Brian Reynolds again in January. I don't think Jose Mourinho will learn his name by then.
No.
But that is the miss for Greg Berhalter in this camp. You're going to get Acosta and Roldan for the entire month of January, basically, to get them in training camp before the training camp and then training camp for World Cup qualifying. You're probably going to get Jordan Morris for that.
You know, actually, hold on. You might not. Remember, those teams are both Seattle and Colorado preparing for CONCACAF Champions League. Like, you'll get them for the qualifiers, but maybe you don't get them for the extended because of that.
Well, then I'm not worried about them not getting training time.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing.
So
what they are.
The whole point of this is, right, is like, I'm not like, if you're worried that they're going to be somehow losing match fitness, yet they're going to they go home, Sunday night, and they're going to take 3 weeks off of soccer. Well, this match playing 90 minutes didn't really. It's not going to make them fresher come January 28th. I'm especially for a guy in Roldan who questions why he didn't have a clear role on this team, and I would question why he has a role on the team. But it's not like these are vital figures to the U.S. men's national team. Maybe Kellen Acosta is a little bit more vital than Christian Roldan. I think Walker Zimmerman has proven to be more vital than the two of them as well. But it just was so weird, the allocation of minutes. But this is nothing new. This is Greg Berhalter. This is who he is.
Yeah, you could have split them, played them each 45, and I like your idea of playing them with one of the younger guys to kind of help solidify things and all that. I mean, we know what these two guys are. They're versatile. They can play a bunch of roles. It's good to have one of them on the bench in situations when you're on the road or at home and you might need a jack of all trades. I think there's a place. I get it. You didn't need it here. Let's talk about the two Atlanta United guys who started at outside back. Bello on the left, Lennon on the right. According to Soccer America, Brooks Lennon was the highest-rated player in the match, along with Cole Bassett and Walker Zimmerman. They got 7s. Would you agree that Lennon had a good debut?
Yeah, actually, I thought he was pretty good. He was exactly the Brooks Lennon we've seen in Atlanta. I don't know if I would give him quite as high a rating as Walker. Cole Bassett gets a high rating because he scored.
Yeah.
I thought he was pretty good outside of that, but that's why he gets that. But I thought he was pretty exactly what we thought he would be. I thought he and Jordan Morris were producing all sorts of great chances on that right wing. Mm-hmm. That ball he played to Ricardo Pepi, and I tweeted this during the game, is I'm sorry, Jason, I'm going to make people mad, and I apologize.
No, that's what you do. It's okay.
I know. That is what we miss of everything that we miss from Julian Gressel. That's the only thing we've missed, in my opinion, is that like slotted through ball, that cross across the ground, those types of zippy crosses to Joseph Martinez. Brooks has had a tendency to kind of float stuff to him. I know he's been successful at connecting on those crosses, but they're not as dangerous, especially for a guy like Joseph Martinez. That is what we need to see here in Atlanta, is that ball fizzed across the ground right to the striker's feet. Somehow Ricardo Pepi managed to not even turn that into a shot. That was really good for Brooks, and I thought he had other good combination play with Jordan Morris. I thought he was really effective going down right wing. Defensively, a little bit of some struggles at time, but always working hard, always able to recover even when he is somewhat out of position. And that's what we've come to expect from him as we've watched him in Atlanta. I thought he was pretty Brooks Lennon.
I thought there were some differences with him. Sorry, John, real quick. I thought there were some differences in that you started to see a few of the things, especially early, that I'm assuming were worked on in camp and were very different than the first half of Atlanta United season. And, you know, we talked about it a lot over the last couple of weeks with Lennon was given a pretty rigid, specific set of directions from Gabriel Heinze. Wide, stay wide, always going to try to work the ball to you, but you have to stay wide. And I thought in this, you started to see more of the underlapping runs that
I love the underlapping runs.
Same. And if you're on the same page with the winger and the winger stays wide, you can come inside, you can go to goal. I think Lennon is pretty good in the air on crosses from the left when he sneaks in on the backside. He can get into the top of the 18 and make some things happen. It was just like he couldn't break the 3, 4, 5 months of repetition with Heinze. And this camp, you know, getting away for a little bit and then coming into camp and working on this specifically and probably really having it drilled into you, I think it can help him going forward. And I hope we see some differences from him going forward.
I think that's what I took from this as well. When I say he was pretty Brooks Lennon, everything he did was what we expect of Brooks Lennon. He executed it, though, in different facets. And I agree that I think this is a great that ball, that cross that he played to Pepi, I was like, oh my goodness, maybe this unlocked that for him in Atlanta because he hasn't really had the instruction probably to do something like that here in Atlanta. Or the instructions he was given from he's on his 4th coach, I think, since he joined Atlanta United.
Yes.
Hopefully, I mean, obviously Pineda is hopefully going to be here a lot longer and will probably appreciate balls like that. So I'm hoping that he just unlocked a few new things that he hasn't been, that have been kind of stored away since he came here, because it's just been such an up and down turbulent time for him since coming to the Five Stripes.
And then what about the flip side with Bello? What did you garner from his performance?
I'll be honest and say it was disappointing because I expect a lot from George Bello. I don't think it was bad. That's not what I'm trying to say here. I want more from George Bello. I think we saw the high of George Bello when we saw him play in the final against Mexico, the Gold Cup final. And he hasn't really reached that since then. He's had 2 World Cup qualifying starts, both very bad, to be blunt. This was not as good of a performance from him, but, you know, I don't think anyone was bad. I don't think anyone was particularly good in this game anyway. So, again, I will say Bello, same as I feel about Lennon or about Roldan and Acosta. I don't think he needed to go 84 minutes. You could have taken him out at 70-some, given Jonathan Gomez more than some petty minutes, and allowed him to play a little bit more. Nothing against Bello's performance in that game. It was just, okay, George Bello's being George Bello.
Yeah, it was an average Bello performance. Like it wasn't bad. It wasn't good George Bello performance. It was average. I mean, it was fine. I think sometimes Bello and we see him all the time. So you know, we probably have the Atlanta conversation about George Bello is very different than the national one, I think, and it's skewed both ways. Honestly, I mean. You know, last year I had constant conversations with people saying he couldn't defend, he wasn't good enough, he wasn't that good, and I didn't see that. And then at times it gets overblown because he's the local guy, and he's a very good teenage left back who is getting national team minutes and playing on a top team in a domestic league, and he's ahead of a lot of players his age. Like, that's a good thing. He's got things he has to work on and get better. I think you want more of those good George Bello performances. He's getting to where his average, which is a good thing for a young player, by the way. He's getting to where that 5 is better than a lot of people's 5s. You know, he's not having – his average game is not a bad game. His average game is a solid game. He's not going to hurt you. He's not going to go forward and help you. Whereas you take somebody like Lennon, who his average game is a little more up and down, where Lennon might have that average Brooks Lennon game where he still creates 2 or 3 chances. Now, he might get beat defensively once or twice too, but he'll create things that can win a game for you. Bello's a little smoother to me in that he might not create 2 or 3 chances in an average game for him, but he's not going to get beat too often either. He's a good, solid defender, so you just want that high for him to be even higher, and you want his average to get up a little bit higher where he is consistently creating a couple chances a game.
Yeah, I mean, he has a lot of growing to do in his game, physically and mentally. Defending especially playing fullback in today's game, is very hard because you are expected to do everything but have the responsibility of defending, and that's a lot to have to think about while also trying to think about playing in a very progressive possession system.
Yeah, I think for somebody like Bello, and this will be the thing for him as he continues to progress, and I think it's one of those things to make his average game be even better. He can get caught out of position at times in the flow defensively, but so often he's able to correct that because he's quick, because he's fast. His recovery is great, but he creates some chaos that he doesn't need to. Now, a lot of times it doesn't end up in giving up a chance because he recovers, but you play better players consistently, they're going to exploit you there. So he's got to continue to improve that. And for me, even bigger is I think he has it in him to be more impactful in the final third, and I want to see that. Abby, I think going back to Lennon really quick, Abby says maybe Pineda seeing this game, he can utilize Lennon in a new way. No, I don't think it's anything like that. I mean, it's not like Pineda saw something that he's never seen before. Like he knows the game and he knows the way that Greg Berhalter wants his teams to play and all that. I think it was more for Brooks because
yes,
you're in a different system, and Brooks showed that he could go into this training camp, first time to play for the national team. He'd been in camp before, but he goes into camp. He absorbs a different idea because it showed on the field, and he executed it pretty well. Like, did he make some mistakes in this game? Yes, but you could see what Berhalter asked him to do, and he did it, and it was different. I don't think Pineda saw something like, "Oh, I've never thought of that." I think it's that Pineda didn't really have time to break the half-season habits that Heinze had instilled in him, because we would see Lennon a lot of times late in the season with Atlanta United stay out wide and stay out on that touchline when everybody else was playing in a more free way. And it's just like he couldn't break that out of his habits. And you get into this camp, he did, and he showed that he could. I think it's more that Lennon shows you that he can adapt to what a coach is asking him to do really well, and you'll ask him to do some different things next season.
And I think that's actually, I don't think that he necessarily broke into like the depth chart at right back for the U.S. men's national team necessarily, because I think that's a pretty full depth chart right now.
How would you put it at right back?
Serginho Dest.
Yep.
I think right now you've seen DeAndre Yedlin as preferred.
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
At the 2. I think probably after that it will be Reggie Cannon, although he needs to figure out his club situation. But I think regardless, that's probably who's third. And then honestly, after that, it doesn't matter. But you have Shaq Moore. I think everyone is going to want Joe Scally to be in there. And I think that I would love to see Joe Scally be in part of that conversation. He has to actually play for Greg Berhalter. And then maybe you're talking guys like Brooks Lennon. But as we've seen time and time again with World Cup qualifying, you don't always have your full squad.
Yeah.
So if he can be the guy that you call in because you don't have a full selection of right backs, I think that maybe is where he possibly has put himself in this conversation. I just think that he plays a position that Americans have never really had a problem producing. Right. Bello, on the other hand, is at a position where we could never find a left back.
Yes.
So he has the curse of being an American playing left back, and you're like, okay, it's always just pretty good.
I think you're dead on that depth chart. I think Yedlin will hold on to the 2 probably through the World Cup. I think 3 down is wide open. Scally could get to the 2.
I think Scally is the guy who's at that 3 or 2. I think Scally is probably helped by the fact that he can play left back and right back.
Yeah.
So he could be a 5th fullback on a World Cup roster, where, granted, Dest could play both as well, but I think Scally is better at defending on both sides of the field. But yeah, I think Scally could move up to 2, but I think he's the guy that you bring in as the swing fullback.
Lennon's the one that, if he can continue to get time and play well, he can be in the Cannon, Reynolds, Yedlin even, although Yedlin's got experience on him. He can be in that group and be at the head of that group. I think that group is more on who's playing well, who's in form. Okay, cool, we're going to take that guy because he's in a good place right now.
Yeah, I think he has at least introduced himself well to Greg Berhalter.
Good.
And that's a positive for him.
If you were in charge of the system, capital T, capital S, for the next month.
Trademark,
sorry. Capital T, capital S, the system, trademark, for the next month to try to prepare for the next round of activity. Who would your first phone calls be to sit there and say, hey, I need you to be as ready as humanly possible because I'm going to grab you by the collar and make sure that you're an integral part of what's going to be in 2022. Who would your first phone calls be to?
So right now, I think that it's maybe not someone who's going to be integral to playing every game, but I think you need to have a conversation with Joe Scally about, I see what you're doing, and you're going to be a part of these camps, so that he's understanding of where he sits, because he got called in November and didn't see the field. I don't necessarily think that means he should have. I get it, but I think you need to make sure that he's aware that he's part of the plan. Then I go to the other side, and I think you absolutely have to make sure that Christian Pulisic knows that he's the guy that needs to be as healthy as possible. And he needs to be working on the things that Greg Berhalter needs him to execute in a game, and not playing a false nine like Thomas Tuchel has him playing. Although I'm coming around to the idea that maybe that's not the worst possible scenario for the U.S. of playing Christian Pulisic at a false nine. And I think you're also on the phone with John Brooks to see where he's at mentally and where he feels his game is, because he's had a rough fall. He has fallen out of favor, maybe not necessarily playing wise, but just seems like he's out of favor with just about everyone at Wolfsburg. And he has not performed well for the U.S. men's national team in World Cup qualifying. And I think you need to figure out where he is, because there's a lot of center backs right now, and there have been a lot of center backs who have played a lot better than John Brooks in World Cup qualifying. But he, I think, is still the best one that you could possibly have out there if he's playing at his best, and we haven't seen that. So it's a weird conversation of, who do you call and say, hey, you're a part of this, because I think pretty much everyone knows if they're going to be a part of it.
But at the same time, though, it's for different reasons. And
right,
I think
exactly.
These communications should be just as important for one reason as they are for something else. It's like you have to treat it like it's a universal thing. It's like, okay, I need to talk to this guy about this thing. I need to talk to this guy about. It's not the same topic each and every phone call.
Yeah. And for what we know of Greg Berhalter, he's actually pretty good at that. He's pretty good at communicating with players after games and saying, I like this, I like that, talking to them about what he's very direct and straightforward with why he picked guys and why he didn't. So I think that there are a couple of guys, like he said, on different ends of that spectrum of why I'm calling them, to make sure they're ready and they know. I think that the most important player that we can probably talk to right now also would be Sergiño Dest, because similar to Brooks, and I don't think it's necessarily any fault of his own, he's not playing a lot with Barca. He needs to still be told, like, hey, we back you. You're still our guy. Keep your confidence up because you're very important to what we're. If we saw it in that game against Costa Rica, we've seen it when he plays right back. The Canada game, actually, thought he was really effective at playing right back. When he is cooking, this team is going to be hard to beat.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to make sure he is mentally in his best spot as well.
Greg might need to be making some calls to clubs because Dest is apparently going to be in the market here in January because he isn't fitting at Barcelona. And it's both. I mean, his play hasn't been great at times with Barcelona. He's also a little bit of a guy that they'll pick on when everybody's not playing well. And he takes the blame for some of that too. But he's probably going to need a new club. And he's the main one. I mean, I haven't heard anything about Brooks, but Wolfsburg has been a mess this year, so nothing would surprise me about what they do going forward. Looks like, as we talked about at the beginning of the year, maybe Pulisic would be in that conversation. He is getting mentioned with things, but I don't think he goes anywhere in January. I think he's
always
enough.
Mentioned with things.
Yeah,
but
he'll play enough. Like I was more of the if he's not gonna play, if he's gonna be a super sub at Chelsea or be a rotation guy, he's gonna need to go somewhere to play in 22 to help this team going into the World Cup. I think he'll be fine. Dest and Brooks are really two good shouts that they're gonna need a little bit of the pat on the back from Berhalter and also maybe the hey, so-and-so club. We really need you to get this guy, especially if you're going to play him, because those two, if they are at their best, can change the potential fortunes of the U.S. in the World Cup if you get there. You got to qualify first, but if you get there and Dest is at his best, Brooks is at his best, you're talking about a much more dangerous team.
Yeah, and I think I think Brooks is maybe not a lock on a first choice starting center back. I
agree.
We've kind of seen two or three guys who are pretty darn good center backs that have been more effective in CONCACAF qualifying. But Sergiño Dest is still, we have to have him at right back because DeAndre Yedlin is not as effective going forward. He's still a liability defensively at times. We don't really have anyone below that has proven it for the U.S. men's national team that they can be as effective. So I think Sergiño Dest is the most important guy that we have going forward. Even a guy like Gio Reyna, who's incredibly talented and probably
can't wait for him to come back.
One of our best players. Gio Reyna is not as important to our success. It's Sergiño Dest. We need him to be healthy, fit mentally, fit physically, and ready to come ball out.
Reyna, I'll kind of disagree with you, but it's a little bit of a different conversation. Like Dest, I think makes you complete and gives you your best team that you can be when he's at his best.
Absolutely.
Reyna's almost the cherry on top, where when he can play, because you've got other really good options in that attack. Somebody like Brendan Aronson has put himself into this. I don't think there's anybody who is the playmaker that you can get out of Reyna. And it's a bonus. To be good, you need to be good in the back. You need Dest to be able to defend but also go forward and do those things. But if you get Reyna in top form, then maybe you're talking, depending on the draw and depending on where things go, the paradigm shifts a little bit then.
Yeah, I think Gio Reyna is probably maybe your second best player you have to play.
Could be.
But where he is, you have Tim Weah, Brendan Aronson. You have guys who have proven to be pretty darn good also.
Yeah.
Whereas the drop-off from Sergiño Dest to anyone else is stark because they're just not as talented of players. They're just not. Sertuno is an immensely talented soccer player.
You're not as deep in those positions.
Yeah.
We have a request, and this is something that maybe you and I can do. We had another podcast that we wanted to do before we get into the January games, and I can't remember what it was off the top of my head. We had a U.S. soccer thing we wanted to do. We'll remember it at some point. Michael Ruiz wants us to do a depth chart of the U.S. men's national team as it currently stands.
Right now?
No. We'd be here for 2 hours.
Right now.
No.
Right now, Bart.
Let's do it. Let's do that as a podcast here over the holiday break if we can, and maybe even do a video with it and do a whiteboard.
Yeah, I think that would be fun. I personally think it's pretty clear, but I also think that there are some spots where it's a little bit harder to say who your number 2 is.
Yeah, and that's really important. And that's what I want to do is I want to do that depth chart. And let's really push ourselves, Bart. We're going to not just go 1 and 2. We're going to go deeper. Let's go 4, 5.
We could do 3 to 4, maybe 5 if we really wanted to.
Yeah,
because
there's some positions that'll probably have a 5.
We have a legitimate stock of pile of talent right now. And it's very possible.
Let's do it. Well, we'll figure out a time to do that, Michael, and we'll do a separate show of that.
Christian Pulisic at every position. There you go.
Yes, everywhere.
Yes.
All right, you probably have work things to do, Bart. So
it's the week of Christmas. Let's not.
Yeah, but there's also a lot of different things happening all over the place right now at all different levels. So we got a million things to hop around to in hour number 2. Man, thanks for the time. Thanks for contributing.
Of course.
All season long. We appreciate it.
Get tested, get vaccinated, y'all.
Yep.
Stay safe out there, and Merry Christmas, everyone.
See you soon, Bart.
Bye, y'all.
Bart Keeler, make sure you're following him. Bartimus Prime 19 on social media. We will get into news that is breaking and news that is being talked about and topics and such here in just a second. But first, John, you need to tell everybody about Toca Football and Eliminize.
Do you have a young soccer player in your family? Have you ever considered private instruction with a professional instructor to take your favorite player's game to the next level? Toca Football has 4 indoor soccer training centers in the Atlanta area. Their trainers utilize innovative technology and a fun environment to help improve your favorite player's skill and decision-making. Give Toca Football a try. SDH is partnering with Toca to offer our listeners an opportunity to check out their revolutionary and fun Toca soccer training method for no cost whatsoever. So go ahead and book your free session now with the promo code DHD, a couple letters later, HDH. Go to tocafootball.com/program/Toca-training, tocafootball.com/program/TOCA-training, or go to soccerdownhere.net, click on the Toca Football banner, and get your favorite player's game headed to the next level right now. SDH also brought to you by Eliminize Service for odor-free, clean, fresh air. They deodorize enclosed spaces like houses, apartments, and condos. They've created a customized solution that eliminizes all organic odors, including those from pet cigarettes and food. Realtors and property managers use Eliminize Service to eliminate bad odors to help and sell or rent their homes that much faster. It's a turnkey process that makes it easy to work with realtors and property managers, kind to the environment, offering a green way to get rid of odors without any toxic residue, different than the masking agents that we have under insert sink here that we spray into the air in our homes and such. It's a proven scientific formula to destroy odor down to the molecule. Pricing is easy, either parts per million or by cubic feet, to come up with a price affordable for you. Results in 24 hours or less. If you have any questions, frequently asked or otherwise, go to eliminize.com/Atlanta. Make sure that you use the /Atlanta part so they know what part of the world you are asking the questions from. ELIMINIZE.com/Atlanta. Eliminize Service for odor-free, clean, fresh air. Proud sponsors of everything SDH.
See, you shaved like 30 seconds off.
Well, we got stuff to talk about.
Oh, well, we'll always have stuff to talk about then, John. Always have stuff to talk about. Keep it at 2 minutes.
Influence.
Let's keep it at 2. You said 1:45 is what it should be. You're still at 2. That's good, though. That's good. Lots of stuff. We'll start with the closest to home thing right now. The Charleston Battery have named Connor Casey their head coach. Was wondering what was going to happen to Connor Casey after a great interim run with the Colorado Rapids and kind of disappeared there for a minute. But he's going to Charleston. I think that's a great hire, an absolutely great hire, because he really impressed me with what he did with the Colorado Rapids, taking over from the broken down wagon of Anthony Hudson, which was really bad, to the point he's throwing players under the bus, saying he just can't play against good teams. Well, Connor Casey then started winning a lot of games and set the table up for Robin Fraser. So Casey coming to Charleston, that's a good hire. Connor Casey, former U.S. men's national team striker, played under Clive Charles at the University of Portland, spent time at Borussia Dortmund and Mainz, went to the Rapids, played for Philly, played for Columbus, 19 caps for the U.S. men's national team, including a couple of very big goals in World Cup qualifying. So excited for this. This is a good hire. Really good work. Good job, Charleston Battery. So Connor Casey is your new manager. First new manager in Charleston since the late 90s when Mike Anhauser took over. I think it'll have a different feel, too. I think Casey will have them more attack-minded consistently than Anhauser was, especially towards the end of his run. Four-card and Barcelona fans are very excited because Mino Raiola is saying things about Erling Haaland. And look, this is the time of year where everybody's saying things about Erling Haaland. You've got the CEO at Borussia Dortmund who has tried to act like there's no release clause, but now I guess he's just giving up on that route because it was a stupid route to begin with. Oh, no, there might not be a clause. Anything can happen. Blah, 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 blah. He's kind of still playing that, but Hans-Joachim Watzke, who I wish people would just hammer with questions because this has been a dumb conversation. According to Watzke, Real Madrid are definitely keeping tabs on Haaland. I know you're shocked. It's crazy. I'm getting to Barcelona in a second. Watzke says, all I know is that Real Madrid are very interested in him. I could name 25 others now, but with Real, I know for sure. Okay. He said this, I think he would fit in better in Spain. A different kind of football is played in England. I am not so skeptical that he will stay with us. Okay, that's three completely different things. I do agree. I think he would fit in very well in Spain. I think he'd fit in well in England, too. I think he'd fit in anywhere, but I do think his game might be suited a little more to a continent club as opposed to an English club. Watzke said that he had a conversation with Mino Raiola, Haaland's agent. Mino Raiola is going to play a big role in this. Me and Raiola had a good talk not so long ago. When we arrive at the end of negotiations, the conversations are always quite friendly. That phone call was quite friendly. We will certainly have another conversation in the next few weeks. If Haaland stays with us, there may be more euros for him. Okay, Hans-Joachim, man, stop the nonsense, please. Just stop. If somehow Erling Haaland stays with Borussia Dortmund, there will be lots of euros for him because you're going to have to give him lots more euros to stay another year. And, yeah, you're going to need all the euros. I don't think you have all the euros. So we know this release clause to some degree exists. Mino Raiola is going to break your back and get a deal done for his client. Something's going to happen, whether it's a handshake, whether it was a verbal agreement, whether it's in writing, whether it varies between 75 or 90 million euro. Erling Haaland is not going to play for Borussia Dortmund next year unless you get a loan from a very large bank to give him a lot more money. And I don't think that's going to happen because you don't need it to, because you're going to make a lot of money when you sell him. Real Madrid's one club that wants him. Barcelona is another. Barcelona's broke. Barcelona just convinced their members to agree to a $1.5 billion loan for infrastructure. $1.5 billion from Goldman Sachs, who is already agreed to lend €595 million to help restructure the club's debt in August. So bump that number up. You're over $2 billion that Goldman Sachs is giving Barcelona. This is a stadium revamp under a 35-year plan for this $1.5 billion loan. There's an initial 5-year grace period. Good on you, Barcelona. Somehow you were able to negotiate that because I don't think your credit's very good. You got 87.8% of your members to vote for this, or of the people who voted, 44% of the people of your members voted total, and 87.8% of them voted for it. This is this project called Espai Barça. It's a stadium renovation, which badly needs it. That would be ready by the end of 25. It would expand the capacity to 105,000 at the Camp Nou. Joan Laporta expects the club to generate 200 million euros of additional revenue annually with the new stadium, with those renovations, sponsorship, naming rights, ticketing, catering, VIP boxes, hospitality, meetings, and events. Maybe you can actually do proper catering because you don't have to worry about the fuses blowing, because that's what happens right now at the Camp Nou. It really does need renovations. This also has other stuff like offices, the multi-sport venue, the Palau Blaugrana, which has faced multiple fines for not meeting European competition requirements for basketball games. See, it's not just the soccer team that's got issues at Barcelona. That part should be completed in 26. The offices, the campus, a hotel on the facility, which is another money revenue generator, 27 is what it would look like. But 1.5 billion in addition to the 595 that Goldman Sachs had already agreed to lend, plus all the other people that you owe. Yeah, no, it's fine. But you want Erling Haaland. And that's what Barcelona says they want. They want to get Erling Haaland. Well, Mino Raiola is fanning the flames in Barcelona. He says, could Haaland wait for Barcelona? He can wait for anybody. We don't have a pre-agreement with any club. We'll look for the best option for him, and I can't rule out another year at Dortmund. Theoretically, that's still possible. Okay. Barcelona will always be one of the world's biggest clubs, even despite their current situation. That is very true. In a year or two, they'll be back. They have the power to find great economic agreements. They'll only need a year or two to get back. So Raiola is basically saying that, well, you know, if Vatsky over there finds a whole bunch of euros and pays Dortmund or pays Haaland more money, he could stay at Dortmund for another year, while Barcelona finds a whole bunch of euros to give to Mino Raiola and Erling Haaland, and probably to Dortmund as well. Mm-hmm. Theoretically, sure, all this is possible. Theoretically, realistically,
theoretically, I could own Peachtree Center one day.
No, that's stretching the word theoretically. It doesn't do that much. Doesn't do that much work. In this case, yeah, you're really stretching it. I mean, if you're able to convince Goldman Sachs to give you $1.5 billion after all the other money that you owe to various people, including Goldman Sachs, things are probably looking pretty good for you in the long run, and they think they're going to get their money back because they're not really in the habit of just losing money.
Yeah.
So, yes, they'll be back, and they will find money and all of those things. One way to do that is to be good on the field. Are you going to be able to find the money a little bit quicker to get this kind of a deal done? Well, frankly, if Erling Haaland wants to go to Barcelona, Mino Raiola can probably find a way to make it happen. If that's where he wants to go, yeah, it could happen. It absolutely could. He can get really creative with the stuff. I don't really know that aspect of it. We know Real Madrid is banking on it. We know they want him. We know they want Mbappe. We know they want all of it. Well, they want everybody. Okay, understood. We know PSG will spend whatever it takes at whatever point they want to. We know that too. We know your English clubs will do the same. Those things are all known. What Erling Haaland wants to do with his next move is really not known. And if he wants to go to Barca and be the next Messi, because, hey, if you're a player like Erling Haaland and you see what Barcelona did for Lionel Messi, they made him the face of everything. And they gave him everything to be that face. And it worked out well for both sides for a long, long time. Probably a year or two earlier, they should have started to figure out the exit plan. But it's hard to be in the midst of it and say that. And they got some other things wrong along the way that made that more difficult. That's all understood. But the idea, and people will make this argument, and usually they are Real Madrid fans or El Chiringuito people who are trying to needle the Barcelona folks. Like, the idea of making Messi that guy at Barcelona, which is very difficult, doesn't happen every time. It's pretty rare that you see that happen, and they paid him a lot of money to make a lot of money. It worked really well for a long time. Probably about 15 years. That's a long time. Now, Barcelona blew it on top of that. which is a different conversation. Messi didn't blow up Barcelona. Barcelona blew up Barcelona. They're Bret Hart in this scenario. Messi made them a boatload of money over that time, and he also earned a boatload of money. Erling Haaland could look at that and say, you know what? This is a club that if I'm happy and if I'm successful, which he's going to bet on himself, and Barcelona is a pretty nice place to be. If all goes well, he could be there for 15 years, and he could be the face of everything in the great Barcelona comeback. And man, for some people, that is more appealing than short money. Because he'll get paid insanely well at Real Madrid, at Chelsea, at Manchester City, at Liverpool, at Manchester United, at PSG, all the money. But if he wants to go there and bet on himself and not just get paid well, which he will in the long run, but be a legend and a hero, well, there's one club he could be that. One club. Because he won't be that at Real Madrid because they're going to pair him with Mbappe. So you're going to split who the face is. He won't be a legend at Chelsea because he'll probably be gone in 3-4 years. He won't be a legend in any of those other clubs. He would go down as a legend at Barcelona, especially if he leads them back to glory. That's pretty appealing. And there's nobody else who can offer that side of it. So, look, Mino Raiola's talking. I still think he's doing it to drive up prices. But until Erling Haaland really makes it clear what he wants, you got to at least have this in the back of your mind. Other stuff on the board. You're getting these meetings in England right now, and they are saying they are not going to take a break even in that round between Boxing Day and New Year's, which was already a dumb idea. If you're not going to take a break, then don't take a break there. Whatever, I guess. You just shouldn't maybe schedule it that way in the first place, but I digress. They're also trying to figure out what they do with FA Cup and League Cup and all this and talk about big pictures. They might make the League Cup semifinals one game rather than two. Duh. Yes, do that. They only have one midweek for replays in the FA Cup. How about you just don't do replays? How about you actually move into the modern game and not do a replay at the other facility? I know, and people get, anytime you say something like that, people get bent out of shape. Well, but it's so much fun and blah, 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 and this is how it's been for 50 years. And yeah, you tell that to these players who are playing 500 games in a calendar year. Mm-hmm. You tell them they need to go play a second game because it was a draw. Play extra time, have penalties, get out of there. Don't even play extra time. Go to penalties. Get out of there. Like, stop with the nonsense of adding more minutes to games because you play 90, then you play extra time, then you go to penalties. Like, yes, I understand that if the game was drawn for the smaller team to host and they scrape out a draw and then they get to go to the bigger team and maybe make more money, how about you just distribute more money to begin with? Like, stop this nonsense. Grow up, England. Come into the modern 21st century. Please, at some point.
Kicking and screaming at this point.
Well, they need to because right now they do a festive fixture period where they play games in 48 hours. Well, 72 is probably fair. 2 games in 72 hours. They'll play on 26th, play on the 28th. That's insanity. Then they'll play again on the 1st. That's insanity. They'll play this League Cup, which is also adding more games, which is insanity. They'll play 2-leg things of that. It's insanity. They'll play replays in the FA Cup. It's insanity. At this point, you're playing too many games. Flat out. Stop it. Now, they're also trying to figure out, well, okay, what if all the players on this team either can't play because they are tested with COVID, they're sick, their hamstrings are blown, their quads are blown, their calves are blown. Well, if they got 13 players and a keeper, they're expected to play. Because that's good.
Yeah.
You know, that's always good. How about you just don't have all the games that would lead you to only have 13 players? And yes, COVID adds to all this, but there's still the issue with playing too many games. That issue it was there before, and it's going to be there afterwards unless they make changes. Now's the time to make changes to make the game better. Now's the time because you've seen it play out. Please please get this stuff right, England, but I am not holding my breath because I'd like to keep breathing.
Yes.
I don't trust it.
Nope. You have an opportunity here. The information and the situation is in front of you where you can fix the game across the board in your country involving all of these competitions and all of these backlog of games and all these decisions that are being made across the board. Here's your opportunity to do anything. I ain't banking on it, but the opportunity's right there in front of you.
Yeah, I hope they fix it. I hope they can get it right at some point. They'll probably do better with the money if they get it right in the long run. But yes, you might lose a little bit in the short run and make these competitions better, but you'll be more solid and you'll actually take care of the players the right way, which is supposed to be part of it. We'll see. Other rumors on the board right now. Talking about another thing that is going to be a bit of a mess, the African Cup of Nations in January. It's not just down to the COVID issues, although that's a huge part of it, obviously. The president of the CAF, the Confederation of African Football, Patrice Motsepe, flew into Yaoundé in Cameroon for talks about this tournament. An executive committee meeting on Sunday resolved to go ahead with the tournament. 24 teams come into Cameroon. However, Cameroon has had a lot of issues, and not all COVID-related. Lack of organization domestically, getting ready for this thing. Incomplete building work. There is also, obviously, the threat of coronavirus outbreaks. Several members of the executive committee called for the tournament to be postponed. Majority voted to have the president of the Confederation make an emergency trip to engage with the Cameroon government. Okay. CAF sent their general secretary last week to urge the speedy completion of building work at the Olembe Stadium, scheduled to host the opening game and the final. January 9th. It's December 20th. The stadium's not ready yet. That's not good. Executive committee meeting was told there is a major risk of the tournament failing. Construction work is incomplete. Contractors were not paid. Insufficient accommodation and training facilities for the 24 teams. Several key organizational staff quit. Cameroon were originally hosted or awarded the 2019 finals. Tournament was switched to Egypt when Cameroon was not ready to host that. Cameroon was then handed the 21 tournament, which has been delayed a year, and they're not ready to host it. The CAF last week said that they would be importing their own laboratory, bypassing local healthcare facilities to take care of the COVID testing throughout the tournament. Clubs in Europe are obviously not pleased with everything going on with this, and on top of the COVID concerns and the Omicron variant concerns and everything with that, the stadium's not ready. You got a million different things wrong. I don't know how this tournament gets done in anything resembling a professional manner.
Do they move it to Qatar?
I mean, you're running out of time to do that. If you'd made the decision, 3 weeks ago, I think it would have been easy. You probably can, and they can throw a bunch of money at it to get it done, but it would have been a lot easier if you had done this when you should have done it, instead of sending the Secretary General in to talk and now sending the President of the Confederation in to talk. Like, they're not ready, and obviously those things are not going to help get them ready. So, I don't know. I don't know what the next step is, but it doesn't look good. It just does not look good for them to get this thing done. We will see. We're going to get into questions for the last 20 minutes or so. So if you have them, throw them in on the Twitch pitch. If you're listening elsewhere, you want to throw it in on Twitter, that's cool too. And if you're listening later and you want to throw questions in, throw them in and we'll get to them tomorrow. We can do that. This week's going to be a lot of that because there are games. There's not a ton of games this week, but there are games and there are other things to get into. We'll talk about some of the MLS moves from the weekend as well. But if you have questions, now is the time to throw those in, and we will try to get to them. Your MLS update beyond the national team game, which was mostly MLS players. The mayor-elect of New York City is vowing to reopen talks to help bring NYC its own stadium. Good. Eric Adams said, my administration will re-engage in discussions to explore the possibility of siting a new soccer stadium to serve as a permanent home for the team. Good. Excellent. Hopefully they can get it done. And they've made progress on one site right next to Yankee Stadium, or not exactly right next to it, but adjacent. And it seems to check all the boxes. It's just dealing with red tape and neighborhood groups and all of the different aspects of it. Maybe the mayor-elect can start to make those things happen. Player movement, if you missed it since we were last with you. Orlando re-signed Mauricio Pereira, their number 10. That was important for them because I was starting to wonder what their attack was going to look like. Red Bulls signed USU 20 midfielder Daniel Edelman to a homegrown contract. Charlotte signed Harrison Offel and Jordi Reyna as free agents. Cincinnati signed Alvis Powell as a free agent. Austin re-signed Jared Stroud. Nashville picked Josh Bauer, formerly of Atlanta United, in the reentry draft, so they took his option that Atlanta had declined. And speaking of options that were declined previously, Atlanta added backup goalkeeper Dylan Castanera, who was here with Atlanta United 2 in 2019. This was a trade ahead of the reentry draft. It basically bypassed the reentry draft. So Atlanta added Castanera. They sent the rights to Mo Adams to Miami, who picked up his option. Atlanta picked up Castanera's option, and that was ahead of the reentry draft, so they didn't risk losing those players. Castanera, again, was here in 2019, but Atlanta didn't have his MLS rights. It was a really weird situation, and it's probably going to continue to be a situation that's unavoidable because of the split with USL and MLS. But in this one, he was signed to an Atlanta United 2 contract. He was drafted by FC Dallas. So FC Dallas held his MLS rights. I was under the impression, based on how much he played in 2019, which was a lot, and he was very good, that Atlanta wanted to sign him to an MLS deal. Well, they couldn't get everything done, and Dallas ended up trading his rights to Miami, and he signed with Miami. So Atlanta had him in USL. The twos are like a separate entity, but they didn't have his MLS rights just to sign him. They had to acquire his rights. They weren't able to do that. Miami did. He played for Fort Lauderdale, did well, played League One there. He's a good, solid backup option. He's younger than what you've had previously in Alec Can, who's now with Cincinnati. But he was a guy that they liked before and just couldn't get his rights. So you're getting somebody who's familiar with the club. We talked about it on Friday and went through the list in the reentry draft. Somebody's name pops out at you because of his history here. Alec Can doesn't take the deal that had been offered that was kind of agreed to, but he gets a better one from Cincinnati. He leaves. You go get a backup goalkeeper in Dylan Castanera. And that's number 2. It doesn't prevent you, or he's the 3 if somebody else gets added. I think he's the 2 because I think for the 3, you're probably looking at a Rocco Rios Novo who needs to play in USL, needs games, or a Vicente Reyes as a homegrown who that kid keeps growing, first off. I saw him with the U19s in the UPSL Georgia final over the weekend. Kalanji Pro Profile beat the Atlanta United U19s 1-0. It was a really good game down at Peachtree City, driving rain in the second half. But Reyes, I don't know, maybe it's just because I was closer to the field or what, but man, that kid keeps growing. And he's really good with his feet. And he's a Chilean youth international. And, maybe he's your guy. And maybe you don't need to spend millions of dollars to do a transfer with Lanús for Rocco Rios Novo. And that, is worth a conversation at the front office level. I'm sure they're debating it. And you've got Justin Garces who's out there, too, that you could sign to a homegrown deal, or he's got one more year at UCLA, I believe. So they've got options. But Castanera gives you a lot of security to come in and probably be the 2. Colonel is asking that as you go back to the 2s or competing for the first-team backup. I mean, he is the first-team backup right now. My guess, just from playing 20-plus games in 19, playing significantly in USL the last 2 years, playing at that level, like he's not going to grow anymore playing at that level. He's not going to develop anymore. He is what he is from that level. Will he get some games to stay sharp? Yeah, probably, because we saw Alec get some games with the 2s to stay sharp. But I think, and some of this is based off, kind of the sense I got at the end of 19 going into 20, I think they rate him really highly. So, I mean, he can be a number 2. And as we're just talking about, you could go number 3 very young younger than Castanera, and go young for somebody who is going to get those games with the second team more than likely. Or you could split the difference, and it could be Rocco and Reyes playing for the second team because Reyes is still in the academy. So Reyes, his development continues to where maybe he's your homegrown signing as a third goalkeeper, and maybe he's the one you groom.
And having that bridge in a Dylan Castanera who's familiar with Atlanta United, knows the lay of the land, having that kind of experience. The front office it can entrust him with whatever role they're looking at, whether it's the 3 or what you and I both think that it's the 2 in this case. But having that level of familiarity when you lose an Alec Can, I think is just as important, especially heading into a season with the expectations that are here, and having someone in a Dylan Castanera that can check as many boxes off as we've checked off here. I think it's vital to bring in someone like that once again in a cap league who can fit all of these different things for you. I think it was a great pickup and smart business for Atlanta United.
Yeah, I mean, it's better than somebody who isn't familiar with the club and somebody that you're not familiar with. This is a much easier deal to make. So you can still go and get a veteran if you feel like you need that. I don't know if you do with the young talent coming through and the potential to sign a homegrown for the number 3, which is very cap friendly, and Castanera is probably pretty cap friendly. So you might end up being in a really good position goalkeeper wise, both on the field, but also with your cap and having guys who could be the man, 2 years down the road, which I think is what you're probably shooting for. A year or 2 down the road, you want to look at, is Reyes going to be ready to be a David Ochoa kind of guy in terms of stepping in and playing as a teenager? Is he going to be ready to do that? Is Rocco going to be able to do that as a 20-year-old? Maybe. But now you've got your number 2 settled, and you can make a bigger decision about the long run. I liked Castanera during his time here. He's what I think you're looking for in terms of an Atlanta United goalkeeper. He can play with the ball at his feet. He's quick. He has no problem coming out and playing outside of his own 18. He's that kind of a guy, and he was very good with the 2s in 2019. Very, very good. So good pickup, I think, especially with how the whole Alec Can thing played out. One thing I do want to clarify, just because it led to some confusion multiple times with different people. The Atlanta United U19s, they played in the UPSL Georgia Premier Division. That is not a youth league. It's not a youth league. So you're playing against adults. That was the whole idea of going into play in this, rather than playing U19 youth for this group, which is like all youth teams at a professional level. It's not purely 18-year-olds. You had Caleb Wiley play in the final on Saturday at 16, about to be 17. You had Brendan Lamb there. You had David Mejia there. You had good players there, good younger players there. But the teams that you're playing in that league are not youth teams. So, yes, Kalonji Pro Profile had Patrick Okonkwo, who had the winning goal. They had Kevin Barajas, formerly of Atlanta United 2, and they added very, very recently Andrew Carlton, which was surprising to see. I didn't know he had left Jicaral in Costa Rica, but he was playing in this match with Kalonji Pro Profile. But it's not a youth club, and they do have youth teams. Let me make that clear. They have youth teams that play youth. This team in UPSL Georgia was not a youth team, and there's no age requirements in that league. So just to be understood, because I think some people were a little confused about that. The whole idea for the Atlanta United U19s is to play these guys and to play adults and to play former pros in this and guys who maybe are going to be pros again. I don't know. But it's a good opportunity for your U19s to learn from. And I thought even though in the loss, they were the better team, they played well. Nigel Prince was really good at center back. He's somebody who I don't think it was ever really announced, but I think he's going to Northwestern. At least according to social media profiles, I think he's going to Northwestern. Prince is somebody who could play for the 2s early next season and maybe do a homegrown deal as opposed to that. We've talked about Wiley a ton of times. Grant Howard, really, really good player for the U19s this season. I had a chance to see him multiple times. He always stood out to me. Evan Schroeder going to Georgia State. Matthew Taylor came off the bench, also going to Georgia State. Mejia just signed his pro deal. But there's guys in this group that I'm intrigued to see potentially with the twos next season or potentially signing homegrown deals down the road. Reyes in goal. Wiley, obviously. I mean, he has already signed a pro deal. Brendan Lamb is somebody who spent a lot of time with the first team in preseason last year. Prince is borderline. Miguel Romero is potentially borderline. Cristiano Bruletti is another really interesting one to me. So a lot of talent with that group. Abby, that was John Reno who was on the call with me with Atlantic Soccer Media Group. Andre Bomar organizes that, and they do all of the UPSL Georgia organization and highlights and games. And I've done some games with them, especially with the U19. So it's fun for me to work with them because I've known Andre for a long time. But it's fun to see the U19s and get to share a little bit of the knowledge from the guys that I know and the potential for them to move up and get that opportunity. So fun game. It was a really competitive one. It was good. And Kalanji Pro Profile won it, so they'll move on into the UPSL National Tournament in February. They play a team in Tennessee, I think the first weekend in February. What are you trying to look at very intently, John?
I was trying to figure out who Kalanji Pro Profile was playing in the next round because I had a rather large national finals UPSL graphic, and I was trying to squint and stare at it and see who it was.
I noticed that. Did you see who it was?
Looks like it's Iturbide FC. Is that correct?
I'm not sure the name. I know they're in Tennessee, and they won that game there in the Expedition Division, which has mostly Tennessee. I don't think it's all Tennessee. But yeah, I think the UPSL Georgia winner has to go there in that game. So you do have a national champion out of the UPSL Georgia League, Atletico Atlanta, who has lost a lot of those players because they moved on to other opportunities. A lot of them have gone on to Brazil, and I think a few have gone over to Europe to try to chase deals. So, it's a semi-pro level kind of league, except the difference with UPSL is that they go year-round as opposed to NPSL, who's explored that, USL League 2, who go in the summer and will bring in those college guys. Yes, Badger. That is the name of the club. I would assume that it was named after the first emperor of Mexico, but I don't know if that is a definite, so don't quote me on that one. But yes, that is the name of it. Iturbide.
So now, of course, I'm trying to figure out if it is in fact named after.
Good luck on trying to figure that out.
I know.
With teams at this level, sometimes finding information can be a little tricky.
Yes.
Just a little bit. Questions. We had one from Sam Williamson. Do you see Machop Chol getting more game time with the first team next season or be loaned to the twos or another team? I hope he gets more time consistently somewhere because I think he needs to play. I think early on, he was in the mix a good bit. I think Gabriel Heinze really liked him. But as he wasn't playing consistently, I felt like his confidence waned a bit. And then when he was getting games, he didn't play well. He didn't play well when he went down to the twos. Struggled a little bit with his performances late. He had a good substitute performance, I think his last one with the first team. I hope he gets more consistent time. And if that's with Atlanta United too, that's fine. That's fine. He's well liked by the club, as you saw from the feature with him and Marcelino Moreno, which is the bromance that we didn't know we needed. Machop has a lot of potential, and he's a really unique kind of player. I've always compared him to Breck Shea just because of the height and because of how difficult he can be to defend. It's just putting it all together. And I hope that he can. He's progressed a lot during his time at Wake Forest. I wasn't sure if he'd have this opportunity when he went to Wake Forest as a freshman. He's a much, much more well-rounded player. Still great in the 1v1s, better defender. There's still work to do. And it's only going to happen if he plays. So if that's with the twos, great. If that's training with the first team, playing with the twos, great. If that's being a regular sub off the bench with the first team, great. If it means loaning him out elsewhere, okay, that's fine too. But I'd like to see him stay in the fold. The question, and when you start to project, and the U19s is one component of guys who will step up and play for the twos next year out of the academy. The U17s will be that as well. I think out wide, there's not quite as many options. So when you're looking at, okay, do we want to keep him with the twos and give him consistent minutes there? Is he blocking anybody who's young that you need to take a look at? I don't think so yet. So I think that would actually work out pretty well. There are guys that, like Lamb, I think in that central midfield, Robbie Mertz is back. Mejia is signed to a deal. Johnny Fortune is signed to a deal. Mejia can play out wide, but he can play as a 10 as well. Okay, Lamb can be a rotation piece with that, and that's good. For his age, you can get him minutes. That's cool. Center back, is Washington going to stay with the first team more, or is he going to play a lot for the second team? Do you kind of need to keep a spot open for rotation to give DeJohn a game here and there and keep him fresh? Prince probably needs some games early on. Noah Cobb will need some games early on. Cobb is younger. He's not going to school. Prince, if there's potential for him to sign a homegrown deal, well, you got to play him a lot early to see. It's what you did with George Campbell in 19, and he earned a pro deal. It was the idea for Kendall Edwards, and Edwards wasn't able to stay healthy, so he went to NC State. Garrison Tubbs was going to get those games in 20, but then the first half of the season got mostly wiped out. So he played a handful of games before he went to Wake Forest as a freshman, and he's played a lot there. He's another guy for a potential homegrown signing down the road. Garrison Tubbs is somebody to keep an eye on. But he was going to get that opportunity in 20. Didn't, because of the way the season worked out. We saw it with Will Riley, who got a ton of games the first half of last season, went on to Stanford. So I think Prince might be that guy. I don't know what Bruletti's long-term plans are. I don't know if he's going to go to college or not. He's somebody I wouldn't mind seeing who is probably at that age. I think he is a true U19, so he might be graduating this year. He's one that I wouldn't mind seeing. Howard's another one. Howard has played his way in. He's committed to school, but he's somebody that I would not hate to see a good bit for the twos to see if maybe he's ready for that. Maybe.
And, that's, for me, it's going to be the fun part, seeing what it looks like for Atlanta United too, with all of these different players that you've just mentioned here in this very short period of time, what it looks like for Jack Collison coming out of the blocks for Atlanta United too. It's going to be a fun year to see the younger players continue to grow, and then possibly those new faces like a Prince coming in and seeing how he integrates. It should be a fun season for the twos.
Yeah, Abby, I didn't even mention Caleb Wiley because we've talked about him for 2 years now. He will sign a pro deal when the time is right. It doesn't matter about the few more years to be a U19. That has nothing to do with it with Caleb Wiley. He's going to sign a pro deal when there's a spot and when they need to sign him. And it'll probably be tied to when Bello moves on. That's my guess. When he moves on, Wiley will get a homegrown deal, go into that spot on the roster, and you're good to go. Wiley's a pro prospect. He will sign sooner rather than later. I don't see him going to college. I don't see him needing to go to college. I think he'll be playing pro minutes well before that and getting paid to do it. So Wiley's legit. I think Lamb could be another one of those guys. Mejia's already signed the pro deal, but at the twos level. So did a Johnny Fortune. I think Mejia can absolutely project to a MLS level talent. I do. Still got things to work on his game, as all young players do. But I think Mejia's just got something special about him. He's just got that impact about him that he could be that player. So let's see what he can do now as a full professional. But Wiley will be one of those two. It's just a matter of time for him. He'll play to play because he can't play for the first team. So he'll play right now with the twos because he should be. And beyond that, it'll just be a matter of time before he signs his pro deal. Really no worry there. All right, we do have soccer over there tonight, and we'll get into that. We get into picks of the week, which came down to the wire yesterday with a Open Cup game in California deciding it. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about champions all over the hemisphere. More trophies for River Plate because you have the opportunity to win like 75 different trophies in Argentina. And Marcelo Gallardo has won a lot of them. He's won 14 over his time at River. He won another one over the weekend. I shared it on Twitter. If you haven't seen the golazo from the third division in Argentina and their championship match, good grief. Guy takes a diagonal, like pops it into the air, juggles it off his thigh, and rips a volley into the far side netting. About fell out of my chair watching that. You had the first leg in Colombia of the final as well last night, which was very entertaining. Second leg will be on Wednesday. Our old friends Herediano won a title last night in Costa Rica, their 100th year, their centenario, and they win a title in that. Very, very cool for Herediano. They're going through a stadium renovation right now. Lots of stories. We'll get into all those tonight. I'm sure we'll have more on what England is going to do or not going to do. We're getting into the breaks. Germany's already in their break now. I think Spain plays in the midweek, and Real Madrid's got COVID issues. Isco might be out of their action for Wednesday now because of COVID-related issues. So they're going to get to Wednesday, and then they're back in Copa del Rey right after the first of the year, so it's a short break. Italy, Nick's not going to want to talk about his beloved Milan, who lost to Napoli yesterday, and there was a questionable decision on a goal. We'll talk about that. More VAR shenanigans. Lots of stuff. That'll be tonight at 7 o'clock. Also, tomorrow, we will have Dylan Butler. We will have our underrated Jimmy Maurer, goalkeeper of FC Dallas, who is from the Atlanta area, played for the Atlanta Silverbacks, played for the New York Cosmos. Going to check in with Jimmy and see everything he's doing, getting ready for kind of an interesting year for Dallas.